the startups that don't scale, that don't make it and eventually fail, I feel like that's one major thing. They're not just able to make money, and that could be as a result of different factors, product market fit, your product's not being at the right place at the right time.
I want to ask how working across fintech has actually refined your expertise.
At the core of it all, accounting is the same everywhere. Whether, we're all doing debit and credit, even if there's IFRS, there's GAAP in the US, but at the core of it all, everybody's doing debit and credit. Any financial reports you read in the US or in Australia, you can, so far you have basic knowledge of accounting and finance, you should be able to interpret them.
What exactly a finance business partner is? Hi everyone, you're welcome to another episode of FemmeBiz with me, Joy Abia, your host. This is the space where we host honest, intelligent conversations with women who are shaping business, industry, policy across Africa and beyond. Today's episode is one that's very dear to my heart. So let me give you context. First of all, I graduated with a BSc in economics, and honestly, my path, I always wanted to go to finance. Finance has always been my dream industry, right? But along the line, I started doing marketing, and in my marketing journey, I was specifically still working for finance companies, right? And currently, I'm still taking my MSc in finance. So to tell you that I'm actually not letting this space go. I'm not letting it go. So today's conversation is definitely very dear to my heart. And I'm joined by Onize Sanni, who is a chartered accountant, and she's currently a finance business partner at Moniepoint Group. Hi, Onize.
Hi, Joy.
Hi. Oh my God. I'm so excited for this episode.
I am. I'm excited.
I do know, you've already given me your background, you've given me a bio, but we don't want to make that all about, I don't want to be the one to say everything, right? So I would love for you to give us an intro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. My name is Onize, like Joy already said. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I'm a chartered accountant. I studied accounting in Covenant University, and I currently work as a finance business partner. And, I've basically done finance and accounting my whole career. And somehow I found myself, specialized. I always call it specializing, but I just found myself in tech companies and then fintech companies. And, that's just how, I've grown. I've just moved from one to the other. So, yeah. Thank you.
So let me first of all start with accounting. I remember there was this particular day, I like to draw from stories that, that I am very familiar with. So there was this day that I was going to university, right? And my dad was like, we need to all go to the university together, and so that I can get advice on what I wanted to study, because he wanted me to study accounting. And I was like, a part of me was like, I don't want to do that double entry and the account payables. And for some reason, I like numbers, but accounting, I wasn't really feeling it. And then I went to school, and I got some advice from the dean of the college then. And then he was like, okay, if you want a broader scope of things, choose economics. So that's how I did economics. So first of all, I want to know how, what's your passion, was this something that you liked from secondary school? You already knew that you were going to do accounting?
To be honest, I feel like this is one of the most easy and straightforward questions for me to answer.
Okay.
And I always say it was something I just knew from childhood. I can't pinpoint anything particularly that said that maybe, okay, some people, okay, I had an auntie and uncle, something that inspired it. I just knew, I grew up saying I wanted to, at that point, I didn't know that accounting. I just used to say I wanted to study accountancy. Yes, that's what I call it that time. So okay. I think it was just something I was always saying from my childhood, and I just stuck to it. I can't, like I said, I can't pinpoint to any what influenced it. It was just, okay, the most I can even say influenced it was, okay, I had aunties, uncles that worked, the way you see adults going to work with their suits. So I just felt, okay, going to the office was nice. I don't like that now, but but I don't think it was that specific to accounting, because I mean people go to the office to do many things. So I always say it was just I just grew up with it. Yes, I just knew it, and I stuck to it. I mean, secondary school, they put me in science class. I said no. I went to commercial class. Even when everybody, same way you said it, that they told you, oh, do economics if you wanted something broader. I remember that time everybody was saying, oh, accounting is limited. Anybody. I'm just like I was never phased. I was just like, I want to do my accounting. It was just straightforward. Although I always now say it in hindsight that if I could go back to my, 13 or how old was I when I was in SS1, I just tell myself, stay in science class and do a science-based course. I mean, now I always say do MIS, that's Management Information System.
Okay.
When you're done, or even while you're doing it, do your ATS, do your ICANN, and you still be the accountant that you want to be, but you still have something else in the back. Because I mean, and I'm honest about this. I always tell people that one big, I don't want to call it a disadvantage, but it's something I side-eyed people that you can literally just wake up from any field, medicine, engineering, whatever you studied, and decide you want to become a chartered accountant, register for the exams, write it, and you are literally the same with me that spent my 4 years, and I still had to write the same exams that you wrote. So, I mean, like I said, if I could go back in time, I'll give myself that advice, but not much regret. I mean, we make the best with what we have. So yeah, that's. I mean, that's
so you never even like. Did you along your journey have you like been curious about other areas?
I have. I like to call my 300 level in school I call it my identity crisis, because I feel like I went on internship for the first time and I came back and I felt disillusioned. I felt like, what am I doing in school? Like, is this, because I think that was the first time I started hearing, I became exposed to like the tech industry. And I remember that time everybody was like, oh my God, coding is the new way. Tech is this thing. Everybody needs to learn how to code. And I'm just asking myself, so what am I doing here? Am I wasting my time? I mean, I had my worst results in school that semester. Wow. So to show you how much the thing got to me, I was just like, what am I doing here? Like, am I wasting my time? Should I, obviously dropping out was not an option, but but it was so, I mean, like I said, even for me to get to the point where I'm saying, if I can go back to my 13-year-old self, I would advise her otherwise. It was just in me exploring other parts. I feel like a lot of things would have been easier for me if I came, there's just that thing of having exposure to different industries. I mean, for me, it's almost been like one linear path. So I feel like if I could have, those exposures, it would have been, I feel like I'll be, much better at what I do. I'll have more knowledge, but then it's also me just being an efiko and being an ubasabi, as we call it. So yeah, but like I always say, at the end of the day, I'm grateful for where I am, and I just make the best of what I can do with what I have.
Did you write ICANN in school?
Oh yes, I did.
So which level did you start?
I started with ATS, because the way it is if you want to write ICANN, you have to do I think if you want to write with your BSc, you like BSc accounting, there's just skills and professional. So that means we're going to wait till after till we graduate rather. So, but if you wanted to write it, we started from like ATS. So ATS is accounting technician scheme. So we did that, the 3 levels. So by writing that, we now got exemptions from a lot of papers. So we just had to do like 4 papers in skills and 5 papers in professional, if I remember clearly. So it was just, I think we're the first set that, I think before then, anybody that wanted to write it would just write it on their own, read on their own, go for exams on their own. But that was the first time the school actually attempted to do a program. So we had like summer lessons, we were in school, then we wrote our exam. Funny enough, after the first one, they kind of really cancelled it. So the rest of us, it was just through pure, determination that, we started this journey. Yeah. So funny enough, even when I finished my ATS, my mom was like, okay, I mean, I remember I said there was a semester my grades really dropped. Yeah. So she felt like that was what was distracting. So she told me to drop it. Yes, I dropped it. The remaining, my friends, they were all going to write. I remember very clearly one of my lecturers, papers. He was looking for somebody. They said, oh, are the people writing ICANN? And they saw me, but me, I'm just like, oh, I'm not more writing. I was like, why are you not writing? And I explained that my mom said I should drop it, that she felt like it was affecting my grades. He said, no, he actually collected her number. He called her, he spoke to her. I said, no, that this is even going to be more beneficial to me. So, I mean, I'm very grateful for him, Professor Benkele. I will never, I owe him that, shout out. So that was what, it wasn't easy because, for example, now the professional, we wrote it literally the same period, not just like the same week of your final year exams. In fact, I remember they had to go and change the timetable because exams had started. So it meant, we had exams clashing with it. We had exams clashing with the professional exams of ICANN. So they had to change the timetable because of us and pushed a lot of our papers to like the second and third week. So it was like we used the first week to write while our mates were probably reading ahead of the second week, but we used the first week to write. And the second week, you just, as we were done with that, you didn't rest. You just picked up your school books and wrote the actual school exam. But I thank God that I made it. I graduated chartered, and I'm glad I did that because I don't think I would have
graduated chartered. Yeah, that's amazing.
So the result literally came out just as we're about to convocate. So it was good. It was nice.
That's so good.
And Onize is one of the people that my dad would look and say, does she have 2 heads? Because he registered me for 8 years. I remember I wrote maybe like the first 8 years paper or something, and I passed, and I did about my coconut head. I was like,
this is not for you.
I was just like, but even now it's still a very good advantage, right? But that I remember I've actually sat for the exam. It's so crazy that I actually have to remember that. Anyway, okay, so how in now as you knew it was accounting, you already graduated chartered. What was like the first company or industry? what kind of industry did you think that you would work? Like, do you think you're going to work at a bank, a commercial bank, or how was that? Like, how was out of school like?
So I think looking back at it, I feel like at that point in time, I was open to anything.
Okay.
I know people were, the big four, people knew if they wanted to work. I didn't have anything specific in mind. I was just like open. I remember sending like a few applications just as we were about to leave school. So my first job was with a tech company, and looking back at it, it wasn't premeditated. I know people always ask me that, oh, did you know that? It wasn't like I planned it. Like I was open to working with different type of companies, and the job I got was basically by luck. It was a thing of the CEO saw my convocation tweet and he reached out to me and asked me if I had the job, and I'm like, no, I sent my CV, and the rest they say is history. So they were building tech solutions for other companies, but they now also had their own fintech solution. And as much as I worked, by working in finance department, you are basically exposed to everything the company is doing. So from then on, the next job I got was in a core fintech company. And from there, I always say, after the first company, to be honest, I wanted to go to one of the big fours. That was the plan. But it was 2020.
Actually, do you know, I actually saw you in a picture with someone I know who works at one of the big fours, and I actually thought you did work there.
I know. I wanted to, but I guess it was just never in the plans for me. Okay. It's very funny because they have their normal annual recruiting cycle. So I had applied and all of that. Then this other job came, and it was a very early stage startup, so it was very risky. I remember my mom saying, what are you going to do there? Like, it's a small company. When did they start? It's not too risky. And I was just confident that obviously I've spoken to the CEO, I liked what they were building, and it just made a lot of sense to me. So it was simple, and this was way before COVID, so it wasn't even like this was March 2020 actually, and I took a risk. I told myself that, okay, I'll go there and see how it is, 3 months, 6 months, and I would still, remember I said I already applied to one of the big four, and see how that goes. So I would still do that. If I get the offer, I'll now compare it to based on the working conditions I had as at, for the 3 months, because I know big four, they usually take a while. So March 2020, obviously COVID happens, everywhere shuts down. The big four did not go through its normal recruiting cycle that it would normally do. And, I just stayed there. And by the time they came back in December, I think I remember they sent me the assessment link. I'm just like, I'm no longer interested in this.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm no longer interested in this. And that was how I didn't go back to it. I stayed, and, the next one came, and the next one, I'm currently in Moniepoint. So it wasn't exactly pre-med. It wasn't planned, but I just found myself there, and I just went with the flow.
One thing, like, across my own experience with fintech, I think I remember any of the fintechs I worked with hiring, or even having like any specific, like any proper finance person, and so far now that I'm looking back, I'm like, okay, all of those companies, they are not anywhere to be found today. Do you understand? But that now draws me to like the most like a very important question. Like, in fact, first of all, like, what are the things, like the core things that you've seen? Like, let's just say the first year you worked in fintech now, what were your, should I say, expectations versus reality? Do you understand? Like, what would you have expected that you would have played, maybe based on what you learned, like based on what you knew as an accountant, and then what did you now end up, like, what were like the things that you ended up doing? What was your role now, like, working for a startup, right? I want to assume there's a startup fintech that you worked that time, yeah. So what was that? Did roles really evolve, differ, or something like that?
To be honest, so for the first one, like I said, it was already like an established company that now bettered and not another solution that came out to be a company. So, that just leaned off the structure and operations of the already existing company. So it was like the same thing we're doing for the parent company, we're just doing for the sister company. So, that was everything. It was kind of straightforward. It just replicated the structure across board. But for the second one, I was actually the first finance person. In fact, I think I was like employee number 7. So I was the first and only person. So I was literally the one that went and set up, all the structure. The one that set up everything. So, it was very interesting, especially at that stage of my career. I was just fresh out of NYSC. Like, my NYSC I did in October, and by the next year, March, I had resumed, and I was the only finance person. So it was, I would say, expectations, because there was nothing there. So I didn't really expect much. I basically just took everything I learned in the first company. Yeah. I went to duplicate it in the second company. And I think for me, in the second company, what I had more, exposure to like working with like the engineers and product managers, because everything they were building, I was always, there to help them test it. I was always there. Anything they had to do, I was always there for them to run the ideas with. I think that was, one major difference that I did not have in the first company, because the first company, there was the whole team. They had all the ways that they were, from ideation to eventually sending out the product. So I know for me, I'll say that was maybe my first intro into serious finance business partnering, because that's what, as a finance business partner, you're making sure, you are, these guys, they're not accountants, they don't have finance knowledge. They're just engineers. So yeah, making sure that they can use your finance knowledge to build the best products possible. So yeah, in terms of expectations versus reality, I would say there wasn't so much of a difference, because I went and I set up, things with what I already knew. And, obviously I was also learning on the go. I also got like some external support and, all of that.
Amazing. So like I was already saying that based on what I know, even data too, like, I think, let's just say like 7 out of 10 or maybe 8 out of 10 startups that maybe start like in the same year or in the same season, only like seven will fail. Like
and
7, or 8 will fail out of that. So now from the ones, like, permit me to mention like some of the places that you've worked at according to the bio you gave me. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
okay. So you're currently with Moniepoint. You worked with Mono, Softcom, Prospa, and Eyowo, right?
Yes.
So these companies, I want to, like, they are doing pretty good, pretty well. Now, like, what are the patterns that you would have noticed amongst like these early stage startups with, and like scaling, like in terms of now their finances now? Because is not a lot of other fintechs too do get money, right? I've been with one where they've actually received seed funding, but as of how many months after, they can't keep going, right? So like in terms of like the patterns of money flow, what they do, how they spend their money, what can you say about like what that does for their success?
Okay. So that's a very loaded question. So I'll just try to explain it the way I understand it in my head, and I hope I'm able to do a good job with that. So I think in terms of startups succeeding versus failing, there are a lot of factors. Finances just happens to be one of them. One of the major things, I mean, at the core of it all, every business, startup or not startup, is set up to bring shareholder value. That's set up to make money and use that money to make more money and keep recycling it all over and over again. So it's simple. So, and it's a simple equation that you need to make more money than you are spending. So your revenue needs to be able to cover your costs with extra as profits. Yes, so that's basically it's supposed to be that simple equation. But startups are set up, and not just even fintech, but the whole concept of startups generally, they are set up such that they move very fast, they burn a lot of cash, but the goal is that they would get to the point where they are now making a lot of money. The money would now, make up for all the ones they burnt in the past, and, they make more in the future, so they become profitable as it is. So the problem starts with when, number one, you are not able to get to that point where you're making money fast enough. I mean, it's a thing for companies to raise money even without, having made any form of revenue. They're just raising money based off, I have this idea and I want to execute it for this product I want to build. That's fine. But the longer you spend between, when you start building and when you're spending money to, run the company, the longer you spend getting to that point where you're making at least enough cash flow to even sustain your operations, even if you're not profitable, but at least enough that you're not burning too much of your reserves, the longer you spend getting to that point, the harder it is for you to succeed. Because I mean, cash is not unlimited. It's obviously going to get to a point you are going to finish. So with that in mind, I mean, I feel like the startups that don't scale, that don't make it and eventually fail, I feel like that's one major thing. They're not just able to make money, and that could be as a result of different factors, product market fit, your product not being at the right place at the right time, that kind of thing. But the role that at the end of the day, there's also a role that finance plays, which is that even before you get to that point where you are making enough money rather to cover your operations, to even before you're profitable, your being able to manage your finances. Okay, so whether you're raising funds or even from the little that you're making, being able to manage it and structure it such that you're able to run the company, that's something that some people miss. Some people might have it and still not make it. At the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. If money is not coming in, everybody will have to, pack up and close up. But, when people think of accounting, at the most basic level, accounting and finances, bookkeeping, keeping records, you are reporting on what has happened in the past. Okay, this is how much you spent, this is how much you made, this is your profit, this is how much you are owing this person, this is how much I'm owing that person. That's basically what, reporting does. Yeah, giving us a story or a picture of what has happened in the past. But the next level to that is now thinking, okay, based on what has happened in the past, based on what we want to do in the future, what we know we want to do in the future, how can we, merge these two, also taking cognizance of what we have in our pockets, what we're expecting, what we know can come in based on the product we are building. Finance is the ones that come in and help you tie all of that together. So you said something about how a lot of the startups you work with, you have worked with rather, or some of the startups you have worked with did not really have a core finance person. And that's because at that stage, a lot of focus is is put on what I'll call maybe revenue generating units. So in the sense that people that the work they are doing is directly bringing in money. For the, you know, if a typical finance team is mostly always a cost center, which is that the people there, they are not directly doing anything that brings in money. So obviously, on the priority risk.
Yeah, that kind of thing is like, boys, is a structural, like,
yes, it's a need.
Decision,
it's not yes, a need, but usually on a priority list of people, when you're thinking of starting a company, usually depending on type of company, usually what's the first thing? Okay, the person that's going to the engineers, the product managers, the product designers, you know, the sales people that will go and sell the products. You know, you think of all of that before you start thinking, or you even think of, you know, operations, admin before you now start thinking of finance. You know, a lot of companies even start out. I'm sure maybe the ones you work with, they're probably even outsourcing now, which is not bad, which is also not bad. But even with that outsourcing, is that, are you taking advantage of what, you know, those people actually rendering? It's not just to get the reports, but are you even looking at the reports? It's not, because a lot of them, you're probably just doing your accounting and your reports so that, you know, you could fulfill one end or the other. Oh, okay, I need to submit reports to this person, to that investor, I need to file my taxes. You're just doing that. But are you really sitting with the numbers and making sense of them and seeing how, you know, how they would play out? Because I mean, I feel like companies that succeed start obsessing with numbers from the beginning, obsessing with profitability from the beginning, and not just leaving it that, oh yes, we're going to eventually make money. So yeah,
that's so amazing. I mean, first of all, like, one question: have you ever been like with a startup that eventually had to pack up?
Not while I was there.
Okay, not while you were there, but
Yes.
have you been with one that later had to pack up?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, so it's in our experience that if you're in the start, at
I mean,
least
I think
sometimes,
it's part of life.
Yeah,
It's part of life. We lose some, we win some. So it's part of life.
I think you had. I mean, when you spoke about the first tech company you worked with, and then the other one that you had to start some things, the structure yourself. I want to ask how, like, working across fintech has actually refined your expertise.
At the core of it all, accounting is the same everywhere. Whether, I mean, we're all doing debit and credit, even if there's IFRS, there's GAAP in the US, but at the core of it all, everybody's doing debit and credit. Any financial reports you read in the US or in Australia, you know, you can, so far you have basic knowledge of accounting and finance, you should be able to interpret them. But I think for me, what has been really major has just been the sizes of the companies that I've worked with. So it's like, from a mid-sized company to like a very tiny startup to like another what I'll call mid-sized, then to one that is really big, which is where I am right now. So I would say the refining has come from how I, you know, think about it. Because for me, one thing that's very important is being able to connect something as little as salary expense or petty cash expense to like the overall arcing goal of the business, which is like I had earlier said, to make money. So just seeing and connecting how all these moving parts come together to make sure, okay, this company is making enough money to run its operations, enough money to, you know, pay back its investors, enough money to fuel, you know, the expansion that they want to use. So for me, I think it's more of that big picture thinking where, okay, I've just gone from somebody that just, you know, inputting things into the accounting software, you know, uploading transactions, you know, approving payments, making payments, to the point where I'm not even necessarily the one doing the payments. I'm not the one, you know, doing a lot of the transactions, but all those ones have been done, and I have those numbers to work with, and I have to, you know, tell a story from the numbers, make sense of those numbers, and make decisions from those numbers. And now even see how, you know, how the company is even able to work with these numbers. Like, okay, this figure grew by this percent. What does that mean? You know, what do we need to look at? What do we need to change? What has changed? What's influenced this, you know, this growth or this drop? Or, you know, what can we do to bring these figures down? So I think for me it's more of like just going around the circle and connecting the dots. Yes.
Okay. Amazing. Okay. Just to break it up a bit, please, if you're enjoying this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. And do not forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, B360 TV on all social media platforms. Now, back to the conversation. So, I mean, you were already telling me earlier before we started the shoot, I was asking what exactly a finance business partner is. So I like to ask that for my audience. What like, can you explain the role of a finance business partner in any organization at all?
Okay, so the way I like to explain it is that most people are used to the central finance team that does, everything. So, you have the person you're going to for payments. For most people, you just have that person that's holding your payments, that accounts payable person that you will not like because you feel like the person is the reason why your payment has not gone out, or the people you go and drag for your salary. Once it's getting closer to the end of the month, you become more friendly to them. So, those central finance teams are usually divided into like your accounts payable person, treasury. So that's the person doing everything that's to do with cash flow, then reporting, make sure that reports are done and gone out. Then depending on the type of company, there's most likely going to be an accounts receivable person. So that's liaising with like all the customers, making sure that all the money that's supposed to come in comes in when it's supposed to come in. And, those are like the key functions. There's also like FP&A, that's financial planning and analysis, that's budgeting, tracking, all of that. But as companies grow, it gets to a point where like the different teams and departments and, maybe business units, depending on how they're structured, would have like an assigned finance person. And funny enough, it's not even just finance that does it. Even maybe like your admin department, where you have like a business partner that, okay, this is the person, everything that has to do with admin for this department is on this person, while the person is still with the central admin team. HR also has something similar, where as much as there's this general central HR team, because of maybe the size and complexity of the companies and how they're set up, they are assigning one person that, okay, you are in charge of, this team, everything that has to do with them, their recruitment, their promotion, So it's almost like this person is the core. This person is the core finance person on this team. This person is the core admin person, the core HR person. So another way I like to describe it is that is almost like those teams are like tiny companies within a much bigger company. And the same way in a company, you have your admin, you have your HR, you have your finance person, is the same way. So these business partners, that's their work. So they're basically partnering with you on a team level to make sure that every team has like the specialized support that they need, because what the engineering team needs is different from what maybe the sales or marketing team will need. Marketing, they will need to do a lot of activations, they need to go out, do a lot of things. Engineering, they're just there writing their code, so their needs are very different. So these partners, as you call them, their work is to go on the specialized level. So when you now talk about the finance business partner, I always say, like I already said, it's almost like you're the finance person for that tiny company within a much bigger company. You're not just, you're the CFO of that tiny company, within the much bigger company. So everything that has to do with the finance of that team, you are, on top of it. I always say, in the finance business partner case is a thing of anywhere that there's movement of money, you need to be there to make sure that it's being moved correctly, is being recorded correctly, is being reported correctly, costs are monitored, budgeting, everything that has to do with planning. And I will even now always bring it down to like at least what I'm more familiar with, which is like the Fintech company that I work with rather, which is that for us there's almost nothing that the engineers and the product managers and the product teams are building that does not impact the books in one way or the other. So our work there is to make sure that, okay, as you guys are building, you're not accountants, you're not finance people. Yes, by the nature of your work, you'll be exposed to all this knowledge. But our job is, we are we're the owners of this knowledge. We're the ones that we went to school to study it. So we want to hold your hand to make sure that you're building correctly. You are making sure that, okay, when they build, revenue is going to the correct way, cost is going to the correct place. Everything is, tying up, nicely.
Have you ever had to be at the center of enforcing serious, maybe decisions that that seen from the numbers, some things cannot work, and you have to actually oppose some other teams based on maybe what they want to do, their budget or something like that? Have you ever had to be?
I might not be able to tell a specific story, but I'm very sure I am, because that's literally what the work entails. You're just making sure that everything goes correctly the way it's supposed to be. You've not,
and even though some team leads look at you like, maybe marketing teams.
At the end of the day, you're not there to fight with them. You're there to support. So we're all one big company with one big goal. I'm there to help you achieve your goals. So it's not, you're literally part of the team. I always say I belong to multiple teams, because as much as, yes, I'm still on the finance team, if you look at the organogram, you will see my name under the finance team. You also go to like the other teams that I support, you see my name under their team. So I'm
at the end of the day, you are for these.
Yes, I belong to everybody.
You're for all, you're for none, or something like that.
To everybody. So I'm part of your team. I'm a team member. Anything you guys are doing, you call me. All your meetings, all of that, I am I'm basically part of the team. But at the same time, I also belong. So I have not even I have one leg here and one leg here. I'm fully here and I'm fully here. That kind of thing. Yeah, that's how it's not. I mean, yes, there's always need to enforce decision, but not in the. I feel like the point of view you were looking at it for was more of an adversary that
has there ever been a case where you're
maybe not. Yeah, maybe not in that light that you're looking at, because like I said, we're literally all one team. So anything I'm suggesting, it is.
That just means that you're like, at the end of the day, like the people that you're working with, like they also have like, how do I say, they need to understand the importance of value too, and how like those communications make sense. And because I'm saying that, because I think I've heard of an instance where someone was like, like an operations person or some sorts like that had to suggest like the marketing team or something, or the one other team had to suggest that, okay, we do this, we do that. If you want to make this, if you want to make sure that let's say for example like a podcast now, if you want this thing to go far, we have to spend this amount of money and like and everything. And then like there's the part where the people that are actually handling the money, they're like, we cannot do that, I can't fly. And then the person is like, so I think that one is still a character issue, not a it has nothing to do with like, if a company would even grow, that okay, everybody has to work together. And so if a finance person should say we can't do that, or it's not really at this time we can't, and then the lead of another team can say, okay, that makes sense, then I feel like everybody is partnering for good.
Yes. Using the example that you've given rather, it is in that kind of situation where marketing has come and said, we need to do this, we need to spend this money, and finance is opposing it. It will be for multiple reasons. Looking at it from my point of view, number one, there's probably no money. We're not going to manufacture this money out of thin air. Or it could be something as little as cash flow planning. Okay, the money we have has been planned for other things. You cannot come and spend this money. You cannot just come out of the blues and say you want to do this now and down. That's why there's usually a budget. If it wasn't in the budget, if it was in the budget, we'll probably have set cash aside for it. And maybe it was even in the budget, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, there's no just money. Okay, you guys did a budget based on revenue forecast, but the revenue you guys forecasted, it has not been meeting up. So it's, I as a finance person, it always seems like people from other teams, they're like, oh, you guys are just hoarding the money. It's not our money. The money is not in our pockets. The money is not in my account. The money is not in my account. We have responsibility for it. At the end of the day, everybody wants the company to grow. If the company grows, they can promote us and pay us higher salaries. So it's our job to basically safeguard it. So yes, there might be, obviously, we're human beings. There will always be some politics here and there, but at the core of it all, in instances like that, anybody that's opposing anything, they will have to be like a reason for it. So maybe it's now a case of, okay, they'll now have to take it to like senior leadership. The senior leadership will now say, okay, you guys say there's no money. Okay, can you touch this money there? They will now, okay, if they're not truly there's no money, senior leader will tell marketing, we're sorry, what else can we do? Or can we cut down the budget? So, at the end of the day, we're for everybody. Like I said, the money is not coming to our account. The money is all for the, for the growth and benefits of the company that will benefit everybody at the end of the day.
Okay. I think before the show two started, we were asking about some red flags. So I want to ask, this is like, I'll call maybe this section like the health of a fintech business, or maybe a business generally, for maybe builders who are watching. So, I think you already said, I think we touched a little bit on the structure, how some fintechs would rather employ those that that can push for direct revenue before they even think of some other teams. But so I want you to maybe also advise, like in advice, like how would you like advise like a business generally, like in terms of like when you're starting up, what are the core essential things you need to do in terms of now numbers, not just even in teams. Like let's say you have, based on however like much the money that it is that you have right now, like where does that money go to at the beginning, things like that, just like an advice for anyone starting.
I think let me see, how do I answer that? I feel like the way I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, okay, you are a fresh founder, first company, second company, you're young, or you have experience, you've been working, you have some savings, and you decide you want to go and start a business, whatever kind of form. While you're ideating, raising money or trying to build a product or sourcing for products maybe you want to sell, or trying to develop your product, I feel like if you want to be serious at the beginning, there are some very simple things you can do. As number one, as early as possible, separate your personal finances from like the business finances. And this can even happen even before you incorporate the company, even before you register the company. Something as simple as, okay, any money I want to spend on the business, I would transfer it out to another account. I mean, these days we all have multiple accounts, so getting a bank account is not a problem. So even before you can register a bank account for the business, something as having a dedicated bank account, that, okay, this is my bank account, I'm just going to use it for the business expenses only. So anytime you want to spend for the business, you transfer it from that account to, the business account. And something like that will just make it easy for you in the long run to track how much you spent on the business. Something as simple and basic as that, as opposed to just spending from your personal account, where, okay, when it's now time, you now eventually register the business, and you eventually, because a lot of time, even when you register the business, from the registration point to the point where you get a bank account, it might still take a bit of time, I'm thankfully these days there are a lot of companies like Moniepoint. You can literally set up your account in 30 minutes and in less than a day. Absolutely. But we know there are a lot of factors involved that you might not even set it up immediately. So when it's now time for you to eventually do your accounting, whether you're doing it yourself, you're getting somebody to do it, if you had already separated it from the beginning, it's just easy to say, oh, everything I have in this account, everything that's happened on this account is related to the business. For you, it's even easy for you to track how much you have invested in the business. If every time, okay, you're transferring 100K, 1 million, 2 million, it's easy to just go and track that, okay, every time I transferred into this account, I transferred it was basically a capital injection into the business. So something as simple as that. Then sometimes, depending on the resources available to you, you might just need to keep like very crude records. And what I mean by crude records is, okay, what is my income? What is my expense? Something as simple as that. At that level, you should be able to work with it. Okay, this is how much I'm making so far. This is how much I am spending so far. And having all these basic things, when you now eventually get a professional, it is just going to make it
easier for them,
for the professional to come and make sense of what you have already done. Then, then obviously when you eventually register the business, as soon as possible, get your own bank account. And I think for me, that's one of the biggest headaches, especially at that beginning, just that separation of personal and business finances. The earlier you get it, the easier your life and the life of your future accountant is going to be. Then there are a lot of services available, a lot of freelance accountants available that you can engage as soon as possible to help you to start tracking your numbers, and they would be able to help you come and make sense of what you have been doing so far. Yes, you've been keeping your crude records, but it's possible that things might get jumbled up. So the earlier you can engage the services of a professional, there are a lot of options available, for you to do it, the better for you. And I mean, I don't even think this one is even maybe finance advice, but at the core of it all is that, at the beginning of the business, you also have to be very prudent. You have to, when people think of budgeting, they think of like very complicated Excel sheets that you have to set up. But I always say that a budget is, when you're going to the market and you just write a list of all the things you want to buy, that's literally a simple budget. So even at whatever level you are, these are things that you can already start doing. You cannot just be moving and, expecting things, something will definitely break alongside the way.
Please make life easy for the finance person that you're bringing on your business in the future. Do the right things. Thank you so much, Onize. So we're wrapping up the episode now, and I just want to say, okay, aside being a finance person, like, tell us a little bit about the other things that you like to do, like, for example, how you balance your balance. I don't. Okay, I sometimes I just confuse a lot of the stories I see. So let me not start. But like all of your, let's give us like a little bit into your other life aside the numbers.
To be honest, I mean, work takes up most of my time and life. I'm going to be very honest. And it also doesn't help that I work remotely. So I always jokingly say I don't work from home, I live at work. Because remote work has its advantages and disadvantages. And I feel like I'm one of those. Some people, they're able to really demarcate it so much that they say, okay, I open my laptop by this time. Once it gets to this time, I close it. But I mean, somebody like me, there are weeks where I'm probably waking up every time in the middle of the night to open my laptop to work. And there are weeks where I'm sleeping through the night. So it varies, it varies like that. But at the core of it all, I know one thing that I'm always doing. I read a lot. I mean, I always have at least 2-3 unfinished books that I'm trying to finish at the same time. One is probably an audio book. The other one is, an ebook that I'm trying to finish. So I read a lot. And I also I write a lot. I mean, I publish sometimes, but I don't publish all the time, but I also I write a lot. So I mean, those are the few things. And I feel like the kind of person that I am, my interests vary from time to time. So at every point in time, I always have one thing or the other that is probably catching my attention, and I'm probably devoting my time to. So take, for example, now, sometime in October last year, I woke up, I was literally just in the middle of the day, and I just asked myself why I never tried to learn makeup professionally, and that's like to do makeup for like other people, because I always do my makeup by myself, and I'm just like and I mean, because I can do my makeup by myself, I can still help you do your makeup, and you will not look terrible. At least it won't be professional, but you will look fine. It will be good, that kind of thing. I'm just like, why didn't I ever really explore and invest in this? Maybe going for a class, and I mean, and that was it. And from then on, I just went, I bought products, I bought my lights, and I've just been practicing. And everybody's asking me, what's your plan? Do you want to open a studio? Do you want to become a makeup? But I'm just like, no, I just want to learn this thing. So that's literally how I am. Like, there's just always something that's, that piques my interest at one point or the other. So, and I try to explore it. But yeah, I think, I don't go out a lot. I really like my house, and it doesn't help that I work remotely. So it helps me. I stay at home a lot, but I try to go out from time to time. I will not call myself the most adventurous person, but when the opportunity comes, I take it up. So yeah, I'm basically I just stay at home and mind my business. I read my books, and I'm fine.
Amazing. Okay, so one final question in one sentence, right? If you could distill your experience into one principle, like every scaling company should internalize. So basically, if there's one thing that you think a company should internalize and should change, like if they want to scale, what would it be?
I think it is build a product that works, that solves a tangible problem for people, and also helps people make money. It makes people rich. I feel like that's a combination. It's a magic potion that if you are able to have those 3 elements in one product, then I don't think you have any problem scaling. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. I sincerely, thoroughly enjoyed this episode, Onize. Onize, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Joy, for having me.
I enjoyed this conversation so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll see you on the next episode. Again, my name is Joy Abia. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on all our social media platforms. That's B360 TV on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn. All right, that's bye for now. Thank you.